Right, let's have this conversation, a very important one, and we're going to travel all the way to Kigali, Rwanda, where we'll be talking to Fiona. Fiona has been working so hard together with her teams in ensuring that those who are preparing the food from the farm to the table are able to, transact using the latest, technology, and that is Fintech in the agribusiness space. Let's bring in Fiona. Fiona, thank you so much for making time to speak to us. First of all, I'm hoping that you're keeping safe. We understand Rwanda is currently, exercising a lockdown in Kigali city. I hope all is well from where you sit. But let's get into this conversation today. Looking at COVID-19 and the fintech sector, where you are very active in, has the pandemic brought in any blessings with it, or it's been a curse for you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm safe. Thank you. I think COVID has not been a blessing to humanity in general, because we have lost millions of people due to this pandemic. But as like any other human power, we are here to find solutions amidst the challenges. And even before COVID, the 300 million smallholder farmers around the world faced a funding gap of about 167 billion USD. Particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, where it's home to over 50 million smallholder farmers. It's a huge challenge in terms of funding the agriculture sector. But we have seen with COVID, it has brought also the adoption of different digital platforms and technologies in general. Ourselves at Farm Crowdy, we are supporting actors in the value chain by providing them inputs on time, on a good price, and also leveraging on that to make sure we provide them with finance. Or let's go to Kenya, where, for example, Pula or Apollo is really doing an amazing job. And I believe these digital platforms and technologies will be a very distinctive future of the agriculture value chain moving forward. So, yeah.
Now, Fiona, I mean, if we go practical now and look at the current state of affairs, let's take a practical example with Kigali being under lockdown today. Of course, that means limited or no movement at all for those who are seeking to either buy from the farmers or even just have food on their table, which requires them to move or to be mobile. How are you and the players in the fintech space, bridging the gap or, taking their space in the current state of affairs in Kigali today?
So, when it comes to the current lockdown, our culture is an essential sector. So business is still working, even though it's not as usual. So with COVID, what is COVID telling us? COVID is telling us to change the strategies, to change the way of doing things, So things should not be put on hold because of such shock. And this is preparing us for the future shocks, And in Kigali, there are different stakeholders in the value chain that they're doing our best. As I gave you an example of ourselves at Farm Crowdy, we are doing this by providing finance to agriculture value chain actors, cooperating with the banks, to do this, and different mobile money operators. Why all these people are mentioning? It's because our culture is a very huge sector. It's not a one-man powered sector. So there's that ecosystem that needs to be put in place if we need to have a very holistic solutions for farmers. And this helps in terms of knowing which products specifically to design for farmers. When you're providing a financial product for a farmer, it's a very totally different financial product that you would make for myself, because our culture is very seasonal. They will perhaps pay you after they harvest. You know, they need money in different bundles depending on the nature of the business. If it's in a horticulture, if it's maize, so you need to have all those determinants to make up our minds in terms of which financial products that we are putting in place. So currently we are doing well, but we need to do more, because if things are not working as they have to be doing, it means we still have a loophole that we need to fill. And with that, I think we need to embrace the collaborative ecosystem when it comes to designing farmer-centric products.
Right. And I know, Fiona, from where you sit, I'm sure you also agree that COVID-19 came as a surprise to many people. I mean, most people were not ready. The fintech sector was not ready for this. And I'm trying to understand how then the adoption process is taking place, and what is needed from the different players. As you rightly said, it's a multi-sectoral field when it comes to agriculture. What would you be saying or telling that person who sits in cabinet meetings, who sits in policy-making decision table, round tables? What would you be telling them that would help prepare better if we were to be faced by another pandemic?
Yeah, sure. COVID came as a surprise, I just mentioned, to every nation, and I commend to how governments have really, really controlled it. You know, it's been a surprise to them and to everyone. And I would say that's why, and I would say when it comes to fintech, that's the purpose of fintech in the first place. Fintech is here to show up in such scenarios. You know, it's tech powered. It's very customer-centric powered, so you don't come up with any decision or any product. You need to know, is the product a market fit? In a good scenario and bad scenario, would my business or my startup keep, doing or serving the customers? So when it comes to fintech, I think this is a wake-up call that we need more fintech and agri-tech specifically, agri-tech, fintech products on the market, So I think it was a surprise that we didn't have many of these products or many of startups in the market, rather than saying we had a lot of agri-tech and agri-fintech startups and they were unable to serve, the customers. And when it comes to policymakers or the cabinet, as you said, I think it's more of allowing, when I always say startup is like a baby, so you allow the baby to play around, you just watch, that's what regulators do. You need to watch so that one doesn't cross the line, but allow them to have a free playground, to try new things and allow them to pilot. And when it comes to Rwanda, I think the cabinet or the policymakers are doing a great job, providing different sandboxes for startup people to try new things before now they can now commit themselves to the business. And I think even with Nigeria or Kenya or Uganda, they all this year they came up with different sandbox for fintech specifically. So to me, they're doing well, but it needs to be a very collaborative, still a collaborative playground, because regulators know what we need to adhere to as startup and entrepreneurs, but also we know more than them what the market is asking for us. So when we come in the same under the same roof, we can say, okay, this is the policy that would be very much serving the community and the citizens without doing harm or doing unethical things to the community.
Last but not least, Fiona, talk to me a bit about uptake. Because, with every new technological innovation, there's always those who will be pessimistic, there are those who will be optimistic. I mean, especially when you talk about agribusiness, traditionally, agriculture has been seen as a trade for those in the villages, and of course, lately we are seeing a lot of uptake of this by the young people. But let me understand, how are the players in the sector, uptaking these financial technological advancements and incorporating them into their trade, from the farm, leading towards the whole value chain to when the food lands on my table? How's the uptake looking like? What are the trends that you're seeing today?
So the trends are positive. Our culture is projected to be a 1 trillion space in Africa, and by 2030, but we have a lot of challenges. But with COVID and around this season, we have been seeing a lot of different agriculture stakeholders uptaking on technology. For example, when it comes to mobile money adoption, in Kenya, there's 81% increase of farmers using either mobile money or M-Pesa. The same thing to Uganda, which is 47. For Rwanda, it's even beyond that. And why that? It's there because we found ourselves in a scenario of we don't have a choice. We need to take on these solutions. But my opinion would be more of, if COVID wasn't there, then, or if COVID gets over, are we going to still do using these platforms? And that brings me to my point of having educational finance. This is where you educate people on why, the why behind, the mindset behind to use these technologies. If COVID is not there anymore, or if any shock comes in future, are we prepared? And do people really embrace the technology without a need of, teaching them why behind it? So the uptake is good, but we still have a long way to go. There's I think you have seen how the World Bank have released a report speaking of the digital gap between women and men. When you go to farmers, or if you go to the village remote somewhere, you find that a woman doesn't own a phone, or if she does, every transaction happens on the husband's or the male's counterpart phone, which means this woman will always be somehow financially excluded because there's no data, there's no history. So, and that's why different agri-tech and fintech companies are leveraging on this opportunity. This is an opportunity for us, for entrepreneurs, to take on and to come up with solutions that are very suitable for agriculture actors. And still, I talk much about collaborative ecosystem, a holistic ecosystem. We need all of us. This fintech and agri-tech fintech is not here to disrupt, in my own opinion, to disrupt banks. They are here to enable them. We have agility. We know how to talk to customers. We know how to design good products for customers, but banks have scale, So we need to really work together and leverage on the data they already had, and with our expertise in coming up with products that fit each and everyone's individual needs. And with that, then we are going to tap into 1 trillion billion potential in agriculture sector.
A big market indeed, and of course, the significance of collaboration is what you are echoing on this particular conversation. Fiona, thank you so much for making time to speak to us today. We hope that all will be well, and of course, what we've talked about is going to impact many more in this field. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.